The RackBit Router-Bit storage system is the perfect solution for organizing your router bit collection. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of adding 3 more of these RackBit holders to my router table. And this will allow me to store up to 72 router bits. If you'd like to follow along with some written instructions, there's a free plan available on our blog, and I'll leave that in the description below. To get started, I cut a piece of plywood down to 20.5 inches wide and 18.75 inches tall. I decided to use some 18mm Baltic birch plywood for this project. Once the panel was cut to size, I just gave it a light sanding before I was ready for some layout work. To lay out the reference lines, I used my 3-inch pocket T-square to scribe a line 1.25 inches in from the left side and 2.25 inches down from the top. Then I used my woodworking rule to mark 6 inches and 12 inches down from that top line. I wanted to extend those lines out to create a longer reference, so I put this rule stop on my woodworking rule, which basically turns it into a giant Pellini pocket rule. This gave me a nice line that was square to the edge. These RackBit Rack-its come in 3 different sizes, but today I'm using 3 of these 18-inch ones. They come with a dozen bases, and they work perfectly with any router bit, no matter if it's a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch shank. To mount these, I just lined up my racket to the reference marks, and then used a self-centering drill bit to drill a pilot hole at each corner. Then I could line up the second part of the racket and just screw it in place. Building this second storage rack was way easier than building the first one, since now I have all the measurements that I needed, and I could assemble the rackets on my workbench instead of in place at the router table. To mount the holder to the router table, I temporarily removed these 4 1-inch hex bolts using a 7/16 inch socket on my impact driver. I also temporarily removed these 2 other bolts only because they were completely in the way for marking out the hole locations. Now these 2 will get reinstalled later just how they were, but the other 4, you'll need to switch the 3/4 inch hex bolt with 1.5 inch hex bolt to accommodate for the thickness of the plywood. To mount the holder, I used a 1/4 inch thick scrap piece of wood as a spacer. I set it on top of the 2 remaining bolts and then set my holder on top of that and clamped it in place with some trigger clamps. Then I pre-drilled the 4 hole locations from the back with the self-centering drill bit. I definitely use this bit a lot on this project. If you don't have one in your shop, I highly suggest you pick one up. With the hole locations all marked out, I removed the holder and took it over to the workbench to drill 4 3/8 inch holes for my hardware to fit through. The last thing to do was to put the holder back in place and reinstall all the hardware. I really like this storage solution. It solved a major problem for me in my shop, and I did it in about 15 to 20 minutes of shop time. I'm definitely all about organization in my shop, but I'm a huge fan of adding storage solutions that don't take an entire afternoon to make. This was quick, easy, and something that makes my shop time a bit more enjoyable. If you'd like to add the RackBit Router-Bit storage system to your shop, or any of the other tools and materials that you saw me use today, there's links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please let us know down in the comments, and like and subscribe to help the channel out. Thanks so much guys for watching, and I'll see you next time here on RedTOOL Woodshop.